Hey folks, my name is Jatin and I'm the head of VARC and student care at 2IM. And in this video, I'm going to talk about CAT RC expert strategies. So let's dive right in. The first one, it says read the RC as if it's the most exciting thing you've ever read in your life. I'm not exaggerating, or maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, but I strongly believe in this one. It's all about the mindset. Now, many of you out there might find VARC or RCs boring. It's a reality. Some of you, in fact, many of you, I've heard my students saying the same thing. But tell me one thing, does CAT care if you find an RC boring or interesting? It doesn't. They're still going to throw those RCs at you. You'll still be expected to solve them and get a high percentile, right? So whether you think the RC is boring or interesting or stimulating or is putting you to sleep, CAT really doesn't care about it. So it's in your benefit that you approach the RC with a very positive mindset. And if you consciously do this, believe me, it will work. It has worked for many of my students. Consciously tell yourself before beginning every RC that in spite of the topic, in spite of the genre, you're going to read it with a lot of interest, enthusiasm, and energy and see the magic. You will see your concentration going up, and consequently, your comprehension will go up, and consequently, your scores will go up. So tell yourself before beginning every RC, in spite of the genre, whether it's philosophy, biology, I don't care. Tell yourself that you'll read it with a lot of energy and enthusiasm. Okay, let's look at a sample. Now this RC appeared in, I think, CAT 2020, one of the recent past years. Okay, let's read this. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's an excerpt from an RC. I'll read the first paragraph. Now what does it say? There is a curious new reality. Human contact is becoming a luxury good. The first line itself is quite interesting. Human contact is becoming a luxury good. Let's see what the author has to say about this. I mean, the first line is not clear, so, have some curiosity and let's dive in to see what the author means by this. As more screens appear in the lives of the poor, screens are disappearing from the lives of the rich. Again, very interesting. Who would have thought? I mean, we think that screens are increasing everywhere. We're all hooked onto Instagram, WhatsApp, our mobile phones, whether we're poor or rich. But actually the author is saying screens are disappearing from the lives of the rich. The richer you are, the more you spend to be off screen. Now, it's a very interesting idea. The first paragraph itself is very interesting. So you should get hooked to it. And this is an example of a passage that appeared in CAT. Now, of course, not all passages are going to be like this. There are some passages that are going to be dry, from dry genres. But again, I'll remind you, CAT doesn't care whether you find it interesting or not. So approach it with a positive mindset, approach it with a lot of energy, and you will see the magic. Your scores will definitely improve. Try it out. Do this for every RC that you read from now on. Okay? Let's look at the second strategy. Now, this is my favorite one, by far my all-time favorite strategy. I say this line in every class probably, and my students are probably sick of hearing this line from me. What does it say? Get into the RC, find the main idea, and get out. It's a very nice line. I love it. It's got a nice ring to it. Okay? So what does this mean? Focus on the main idea. When you're reading the passage, of course, when you get a passage, you read the passage completely and then you go to questions. When you're reading the passage, focus on the main idea. Don't fixate on details. Don't let unfamiliar words trouble you. Don't try to understand each and every word and each and every sentence in the RC. That is not your job. When you're reading the whole passage, your job is to extract the main idea successfully. So keep your eyes always on the big picture. Be focused on the main idea. It's okay if you didn't understand a few sentences. In some cases, it's okay if you didn't understand a particular paragraph. Read everything. Read each and every word. Don't skim. Skimming doesn't work in CAT. Read each and every word, but don't get stuck on them. As long as you are able to extract the main idea while you're reading, as long as you're able to extract the main points that the author is conveying, you're good to go. All right, let's look at this. Let's consider this with an example. All right, so let's look at this passage and we'll try and implement the second strategy that I spoke about. This passage appeared in one of the CAT past papers, I think in 21. Let's look at it. It says, in a low carbon world, renewable energy technologies are hot business. For investors looking to redirect funds, wind turbines and solar panels, among other technologies, seem a straightforward choice. Okay, so the author is saying fairly simple lines to understand. The author is saying renewable energies are a great business decision. You can launch that business or you can even get into it. It's a great business decision. But renewables need to be further scrutinized before being championed as forging a path toward a low carbon future. Now, this sentence might be a little complicated. You might not understand what forging is, or what championed is, or even what scrutinized is. Don't get stuck. You've read the sentence, try to make some sense out of it, continue, the main idea will emerge. Both the direct and indirect impacts of renewable energy must be examined to ensure that a climate-smart future does not intensify social and environmental harm. This line is much more clear. So what is the author saying? The author is saying it's a great business decision, but at the same time, we should scrutinize the direct and indirect impact of renewable energy so that it does not intensify social and environmental harm. Very interesting take. Going back to the first point, build interest in it. It's an interesting take. Renewable energies are given or are taken for granted that they're a great choice. But the author is saying, let's examine the direct and indirect impact so that we don't intensify harm. That's the main point till now. Focus on that. Let's continue. As renewable energy production requires land, water, and labor, among other inputs, it imposes costs on people and the environment. Now the author is starting to explain what that harm is. Right? The author is talking about indirectly or directly causing harm. The author has started to explain that. The author is saying that it requires land, water, and labor. So it's consuming these resources. Okay? Hydropower projects, for instance, have led to community dispossession and exclusion. Renewable energy supply chains are also intertwined with mining, and the technologies contribute to growing levels of electronic waste. The author is just giving you examples here of the potential harm that renewable energy causes. Now, you don't have to understand each and every point here very clearly. You might not understand dispossession and exclusion. Does it matter? It doesn't. You have the main point with you. The author is saying we need to examine the impact, the adverse impacts. We need to be careful because otherwise it will end up causing harm. That's the main point. These are examples. Okay. Furthermore, although renewable energy can be produced and distributed through small-scale local systems, such an approach might not generate the high returns on investment needed to attract capital. Now, what is the main point here? Focus on the main point. The main point is, again, renewable energy is a great business, but the author says, let's not take that for granted. Let's examine the direct and indirect impact so that it doesn't cause harm. And the author has given you several examples, right? Usage of resources. Then it talks about increasing levels of electronic waste. That's enough. That's your main point of this paragraph. So there are some words, there are some sentences that you might not have understood, but you can still extract the main point. You can do this for the entire RC as well. Just keep your focus on the author's main point. Do not fixate on sentences, details, and words. All right? And after the passage, after reading the whole passage, if you're successfully able to extract the correct main idea, you're good to go. Then you can move on to questions. And if there is a specific question focusing on a detail, you can always come back. And I'll talk about that in the last strategy. All right? Let's move on. So again, my favorite line, get into the RC, find the main idea, and get out. Let's look at the third one. Read the questions and options like a child. You read the passage effectively. You have your natural reading speed, comprehension, focus on the main idea while reading the passage. All of that is great. When you come to question 1 of that passage, slow down and read the question and all the options like a child would do. How does a child read? Word by word. You're also supposed to read word by word. Don't rush through questions. Don't rush through options. Remember, the question setter has set the question and options. The article has been taken off from the internet. The author is not out there to trick you. The question setter is out there to trick you. And some question setters can be quite evil. All right? So read the questions and options like a child so that you don't miss out on any word and don't make silly mistakes. Let's take an example. How would I read this? I'll slow down. I'm done with the passage. I've extracted the main idea. I'll read the question. All of the following statements, if false, could be seen as being in accordance with the passage except. Very twisted question statement. This appeared last year. All right? Read it properly. All of the following statements, if false. If you miss this, you will end up getting the wrong answer. Could be seen as being in accordance with the passage, aligned with the passage. Except, if you miss except, you obviously get the answer wrong. And then read the options very carefully as well, because this is where they try to trick you, right? They may take words from the passage and you may look at it, very quickly and say, oh, these are words from the passage, this is the correct answer. One word will be out of place and it will change the total meaning. So read the question and the options like a child, evaluate each and every word. Now, of course, this takes time, right? But with practice, you'll get efficient at that. But read them very, very carefully. And don't bank on except always being in capital letters. In 23, they might just give you except in lowercase. So don't bank on that. All right? Okay, so don't make silly mistakes. Read the questions and options very carefully. What is the fourth and last one? Come back to specific portions of the RC to figure out or confirm your answers. If somebody tells you that it's not okay to come back to the RC while answering CAT RC questions, they are bluffing. Don't listen to them. These are not school RCs. All right, school RCs were like a treasure hunt, for very easy and were fun. These are complex RCs. When you're reading the passage, focus on the main idea. Read everything, but don't fixate on the details. If there is a detail-oriented question, you can go back to a specific portion, reread that specific portion, and answer it. You can come back to figure out the answer. You can come back to confirm your answer as well, because question setters will create tricky questions and options. So never hesitate to come back to specific portions. Of course, don't reread the whole passage again, but come back to specific portions, quickly scan, see where your relevant content is for the question, reread it, and then confirm your answer. This will really increase your accuracy. All right, hope you found these tips useful. All the very best. More VRC videos coming up on our channel, so definitely subscribe. All right, best wishes.